Hello, everyone. We are rolling for another episode of the JJF1 podcast, where Jonah and Jordan talk about all things related to F1. Today, we're going to talk about silly season that already happened. We're going to talk about driver swaps, driver extensions, the important ones, how we feel, what's going on. Jordan, we have 7 races left of the current season, and there is one driver that has not been confirmed for next year, which we're going to talk about. Who did you see this coming?
For a part of it, I did. For a part of it, I did not. And I will get into that. But for those who haven't listened, Jonah and I, at the beginning of the season, did a 2022 driver lineup prediction. So I guess this is the episode where we confirm our prediction, or we, deny our predictions of them being true. And I'm excited to see the reactions that we had, the predictions that we originally made. So,
okay.
A lot of them I did not predict. Some of them I did predict. And I'm very happy about it. The one thing I'll say is that it looks like we're only getting maybe one rookie next year, if not any rookies, which to me is the most
crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching F2 this year. I don't even know who's doing well there. I think it's been a fight between Guan Yu Zhou and
Piastri.
Yeah. So already that's been, and I think both of them are part of Alpine's academy.
Right. And the rumor has it, we'll get into it later, but there's rumors surrounding Alfa Romeo and the next driver with someone from F2. So keep on listening, and we'll get into that.
All right, so let's start off with Mercedes, who, unlike your predictions, got rid of Valtteri Bottas and replaced him with George Russell. So we're not going to talk about where Valtteri Bottas went. That's going to be later. But we're going to talk about just the move from George Russell going from Williams to Mercedes, which I had correctly predicted. How do you think this plays out for George? And what do you think this means for potential title hopes?
Look, I just want to say for the record, I also predicted this move. I didn't think he would replace Bottas. I said he'd replace Hamilton. But that's a story from the time, and I am clearly in the wrong. Hamilton will not retire. Hamilton will stick around, and that is that. What does this mean for George? All it means, in my opinion, is more pressure. This is just going to be more pressure for GR63, because not only are you going to a top tier team, but you're a young lad and your teammate is Sir Lewis Hamilton. And that is not something that you want to be going up against week in and week out.
I would be terrified if I was George Russell right now. However, we've shown that under immense pressure, he's done extremely well. I mean, he could have won in Sakir last year had Mercedes not done probably the worst pit stop in history.
No, that happened in Monaco this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. The 47-hour long pit stop. How could I forget? I think that this is a fantastic move for Russell's career. He should be getting podiums and wins on the regular. If the title fight is just as good as this year, then we're going to have a fantastic season next year. Hopefully the new cars and the regulations around that provide the good racing. But I think as well that in terms of timing, this was probably a weird move. I mean, it worked out because he's finally going to Mercedes, but he's going to Mercedes when their dominance is being put into question, because you're going to have a new era of cars. And right now we're having a huge Red Bull Mercedes title fight. Who knows if that could continue next year? For all you know, Red Bull could show up and win 13 out of 21 races and completely clinch the title like it's nothing. I don't know. I think that this could be a coin toss for George Russell in terms of him and his chances to win a title. I think that he'll have amazing individual achievements, kind of like a Charles Leclerc at Ferrari, where the man could drive, but his car is definitely not in championship contention. Um, I don't know where this could go for him in terms of winning a title. For all you know, we could go up next year and Mercedes could just dominate everything again because they spent a lot of money on their 2022 car.
Look, I have to disagree with you. I think the timing is actually perfect. George Russell spent 3 years at Williams. I don't think that a fourth would have made a difference in his development. I think that it's the time that he is finally put in the situation where he has the pressure to be a race winner, to be a podium contender every single week. And I think that there was no better move than now, because I don't think that another year in Williams would have done anything. And I don't think that there's any other team he could have gone to that would have increased his title odds more than Mercedes.
I think that in terms of his career, it's a fantastic move. I think that going to Mercedes right now, when they could potentially not be in title contention, is my main issue with it.
Yeah, we have to see how this plays out, but I think that next year, his first year, he might not be a title contender, but I think he'll be a race winner by the end of 2022. And it will be great. And that'll just poise him for 2023 and beyond, where he will start to be in contention.
That is a bold prediction. Let's go revisit this 2 years from now and see if you're right. Meanwhile, Jordan, I want to let you talk about the next person first. He's replacing George Russell. Take it away, my friend.
The replacement for George Russell is the man from Thailand, Alexander Albon. Alexander Albon, for those who are not familiar or just joining F1 this year, is currently a reserve driver for Red Bull Racing. He has spent his entire racing career as a part of the Red Bull Academy. Within his first year in F1, he raced the first half of the season with AlphaTauri, who at the time was called Toro Rosso, which is Italian for Red Bull, who is their junior team. And because Pierre Gasly was underperforming, he got the premature boost into Red Bull. And unfortunately, his lack of development showed in the following year, only achieving 2 bronze third place finishes. That was not enough for Red Bull, and they opted to go with the race winner, Sergio Perez, who has a ton of experience they were able to add onto the Red Bull team. Alexander Albon comes in with this fire, and he's coming in with an up-and-coming Williams team that just has fresh investment from Doralton Capital. And in my opinion, the possibilities are endless. I do think they will come back into the midfield, and I think that Alex Albon will be one of the reasons why. I think that Nicholas Latifi will be not the contributor to that.
You don't think Latifi is going to do well?
I don't think that Latifi will contribute to them or be a substantial contribution to them climbing back up to the midfield.
Okay. I think that Williams is going to take the place of Alfa Romeo next year, where they're going to be fighting for points on a regular basis, which is something that Williams hasn't done since Germany 2019, up until 4 races ago or whatever it's been, that George Russell has scored the same amount of points as Sergio Perez. But I think that it'll be an interesting adventure to see how Alex Albon develops outside the Red Bull sphere. I think that part of the reason why Alex Albon did not do as well in Red Bull is just because we know what that team is like. We know what the driver academy is like. We know what the team is like. If you're on Helmut Marko's good side, you're going to get all the good opportunities. And if you're Daniel Kvyat or Pierre Gasly or Alex Albon, then you're kind of just screwed. You're going to be thrown in. Here's your situation. I hope you do well. And if you don't, then you're going to be thrown out. So I think that this is going to be a great breath of fresh air for Alex Albon. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts not only to a new environment outside of Red Bull, but he's dealing with a new engine and he's dealing with a new team that he's never dealt with in his entire life. Before, yeah, when he was in F1 last time, he was dealing with Honda engines. Now he's dealing with Mercedes engines. And I've watched a lot of tech talk recently, and apparently navigating the engines is a challenge in of itself. And in the junior series, I mean, it's all just, I think it's Dallara that makes the engines. I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong.
It's the same manufacturer.
Yeah. Anyways, they all have the same engines, and the engine manufacturer is not the same one as an F1. So I think that this is an opportunity for Albon to really show his talent without having Helmut Marko breathe on his
down
neck.
his neck.
Yeah, exactly.
I completely agree. I think that we know what the Red Bull environment is like. If your name is not Max Verstappen, you will be heavily defavored in that garage. And, Alex Albon was the victim 2 years ago of that environment. And I think that we will actually see this time around, again, it's all relative, what Alex Albon's talents are made of, especially when there are no expectations there and he is able to roam free around the cabin.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. That's a fantastic analogy. I mean, I really want to see, Williams scored a podium this year. We forgot about that because it wasn't really a race, but they scored a podium. Who knows what could happen with Williams next year? I mean, I've seen all the rumors of Aston Martin could potentially compete for a championship next year. That was a great video that Tomo F1 made. Williams could be back into scoring podiums. This could finally be Ferrari's year. Who knows what's going to happen next year? But I hope that Alex Albon does well because the opportunity is there for him to do well.
I couldn't agree more.
I mean, even if we look back at his time in Toro Rosso was fantastic for the car that he had. He had a bunch of 5th places, 4th places, 6th places, the midfield in a Toro Rosso, where we're going, I mean, compared to AlphaTauri now and Pierre Gasly, that seems like nothing. But when in Toro Rosso in 2019, those were fantastic results. And I think this could be another area where Alex Albon thrives.
Yeah, I really am looking forward to seeing it. And hopefully with these new engines and the cost cap, it's an even playing field and it gives him the opportunity he deserves. And I'm really excited to see him back in F1 because I don't think we got enough of him.
Yeah, and just want to say neither of us predicted this.
No.
Neither of us predicted this at all.
I actually predicted him going back to AlphaTauri. We're going to get into that.
I predicted that Alex Albon's seat would be filled by Valtteri Bottas. And I thought that I was having a real big brain moment. You know what? I was not that far off. Valtteri Bottas is going to Alfa Romeo. Jordan, I want to know how you feel about this because we all know that this is a downgrade. Do we think that this is just so that Valtteri Bottas could stay in F1 and maybe try his luck to move back up, not necessarily in Mercedes, but for example, in Alpine or somewhere else? Or do you think that this is where Valtteri Bottas could show, okay, he wasn't just piggybacked by the Mercedes car, he could actually do well here in Alfa Romeo?
Well, I've been very optimistic for Valtteri Bottas up until this point.
Ooh.
And I'm not saying that because I'm not going to be optimistic, but it's gotten to a point where I'm very unsure because this move came to me as a huge surprise. I really thought that because Kimi was aging, Giovinazzi was not developing as much as he should have, that they were going to go 2 new rookies. So I'm actually very shocked from both perspectives that Alfa Romeo, a Ferrari Academy team, would go for a experienced Mercedes driver. And this got my gears going. And I realized that there is one reason and one reason only why Valtteri Bottas is in that seat. It's because Alfa Romeo is bringing in one of Robert Schwartzman or Callum Ilott for next year. They have not filled that seat in, but they're going to groom someone. And there's no better person to groom. There's no better person to have you groomed by than an experienced top tier Constructors Championship winner and race winner. So I think that's the move from Alfa Romeo's perspective. Now from Valtteri Bottas's perspective, to answer your question, is more complex. I think that he's doing this just to stay in F1. And I think that he's doing this to prove to Toto, to Mercedes, and to all the doubters out there that he has actual natural talent and that he's not just piggybacked by that car. And yeah, I think he's doing stay in F1. I don't think that there was no another option for him except for staying, maybe going to Williams, but I don't think that he wanted to be in the Mercedes Academy anymore. And I think that he wanted to, prove it to the haters. And I support him.
This, for all you know, this could be Valtteri Bottas's giant to whom it may concern moment of his career. I see you smiling. For those who are listening, Jordan is smiling. So I don't know how I feel about this. I don't see this as an upward trajectory, obviously. I don't think that he could really prove a lot of people wrong with this. I think that it's just a way that he could stay in F1. I mean, if we're going to claim that he is replacing Kimi Räikkönen's seat, then a Finn is being replaced by a Finn. Apparently they don't like each other. I don't know if you've heard that before, Jordan, but I've heard some stuff saying that Valtteri and Kimi don't like each other. I mean, Kimi doesn't talk, so it's fine, but
Yeah.
I really don't know how I feel about this. And with regards to who could partner him next year, I said that Mick Schumacher would be partnering him. That didn't happen. He's confirmed at Haas, and I feel bad for him because he's confirmed at Haas. But I don't know. Robert Schwartzman sounds like a great get. I mean, I haven't heard much from him this year. For all you know, Guan Yu Zhou could win F2, not be allowed back in F2, and saying, I'm taking that vacant Alfa Romeo seat, and Alpine's not going to be happy about it.
Well, that's the rumor that's going around, is that Guan Yu Zhou is rumored to be the front runner for that seat, even though he's an Alpine Academy driver, which I find very bizarre. I don't know why Ferrari would agree to such thing when they have 2 very intriguing drivers in their treasure chest, in their school.
Here's my issue with that, Jordan. The ultimate goal of the Ferrari Driver Academy is for them to drive to Ferrari, right? Let's be real here. Carlos and Charles are staying at Ferrari for a while. I think by the time that, for example, Mick, Robert, Callum all get to that point, they can't move upwards in the Ferrari Academy anyways, because you're still going to have, in my opinion, Charles and Carlos there. So I think that they would take that decision to put Guan Yu Zhou in and annoy Alpine, because Alfa Romeo is going to try to not make themselves a Ferrari junior team, because apparently that's what Haas has become. So, and there are many other teams that would want to take Ferrari driver academies in directly from F2. I don't know, for all you know, Seb could retire next year and you could take a Ferrari Academy driver from there. Or Esteban Ocon could leave Alpine and Guan Yu Zhou could move up to Alpine, which means that at that point there would be another Ferrari powered seat open. I think that right now the team, like the A team at Ferrari, is so good that a lot of drivers don't have a lot of hope of getting there. I think the biggest shot is going to be Mick Schumacher, and maybe Callum. I don't even know. He hasn't even been racing this year. Maybe Robert Schwartzman. For all you know, Guan Yu Zhou could do Guan Yu Zhou things and surprise us all. So I want to see what happens with that. But in the end, Ferrari is not too confident that any of their rookies are going to move up because of how good their current driver lineup is.
Yeah, they see a bright future for Charles Leclerc and a bright future for Carlos Sainz. I don't think that within the next 3 years or 2 years at the least, they'll be moving on from either of them. Let's remember, Charles Leclerc was given the largest contract in the history of Ferrari. He was given a bigger and more money in his contract than Michael Schumacher was. So they have a lot of conviction in Charles Leclerc, the Monegasque driver who speaks Italian, speaks French, European purebred. They really have a lot of conviction in Charles Leclerc, and they love Carlos Sainz. They love his communication. They love what he brings to and he's already gotten podiums this year. He's gotten 2 or 3, I believe. And in Monaco,
Carlos
now
had
Russia,
one in Monaco, one promoted from
Hungary,
Hungary and
Seb,
Russia.
Yeah.
And Leclerc had Silverstone where he could have won.
Right. So they have a lot of conviction in their drivers, and as their car continues to get better, we know they fell off a cliff last year. As their car continues to get better, they're going to have more conviction in those drivers, and I don't see them switching drivers anytime soon. That being said, they have a great repertoire of drivers that are coming up, and they should groom them that way. If they do end up performing better, kind of like an Albon Gasly situation, that they could make the switch and be very confident in that if Charles Leclerc's contract didn't seem to pay off.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that is going to be, I don't know, that Ferrari Academy is going to need to figure things out within the next few years, because I mean, poor them, they have too many good drivers. Anything is possible, but I think that their drivers are just going to have enough with dealing with being next in line and being next in line. For all you know, they could go to other racing series and destroy it there. I mean, we've seen Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean do well in IndyCar. So,
Romain Grosjean just got promoted in IndyCar.
Yeah, exactly. With that being said, we have moved away from the swaps from what we have so far. Now we have 2 extensions. I guess we're going to call these extensions that we're going to talk about. The first one being Sergio Perez staying at Red Bull. So I'm pretty sure I predicted this correctly, if I remember well. You did not. You said that Pierre Gasly was going to take over. I'm happy that I got this right, but at the same time, with the way that Sergio Perez has been doing this season, I'm actually surprised that they kept him on. I mean, let's not forget, he has the podium from France and the win from Azerbaijan. So I can't believe that we're saying this as our standards being so high that a win and a podium is not enough for him to stay at Red Bull, but everything between it has been either mediocre or horrible. So I'm really happy for Checo. I think that this is the opportunity for him to actually spend time around the car and spend time around development. And hopefully next year he picks it up and it goes, it's a real Sebastian Vettel, Mark Webber type of vibe where both of them are fighting for wins at the same time and not just Max and Checo being a support. How do you feel about Checo staying on?
I am quite disappointed. I really think we'll get to the extensions later for AlphaTauri, but I really think Pierre Gasly deserves a second shot because if we take into account the quality of the cars that they're driving, some can argue that Pierre Gasly is having a better season than Sergio Perez. In terms of consistency, in terms of qualifying performances, I personally think that Gasly has outperformed Perez this year. And combined with his performance last year in AlphaTauri, I really think that they're just wasting his time by keeping him in AlphaTauri, and they should have bumped him up again. I do not think that Sergio Perez deserves that seat, just in terms of performance. He's a great guy. I love watching him, answer and grill the grid. I think he's hilarious. But I really think that Pierre Gasly deserved that seat. And I want to bring up an interesting statistic that's been surfacing over the past few days on social media. But and I sent this to Jonah, Sergio Perez and George Russell, who was in a Williams, might I remind you, a bottom 3 car, have the same amount of points over the past 6 races. And I think that is something to consider when you're giving a multi-million-dollar extension.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing else to say past that. I mean, I feel bad that we're ripping on Sergio Perez because
so do
he's such
I.
a good driver, but he just hasn't shown it this year. And I really hope that he picks it up because this could be like McLaren 2.0, where he moved in 2013 to replace Lewis Hamilton. He did a horrible job. That McLaren car was bad and Sergio was awful. And meanwhile, he went to Force India after that, which later became Racing Point, and aced it and really showed that when he was in a car that was really to his strengths, that he could put in fantastic results. I mean, whenever Mercedes and Red Bull and McLaren McLaren didn't get a podium at all in that turbo hybrid area, but Ferrari, sorry. Whenever Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari weren't on the podium, who was it? It was Sergio Perez. So it's impressive to see. Normally when people have the opportunity to move up to good teams, they thrive, but it looks like it hasn't been the case for Sergio. And I really hope that he picks up.
Yeah, I really hope so too. Like let him have this second year as not a second chance, but to really prove the haters wrong that this season was just a learning curve. And we saw Daniel Ricciardo's first half of the season be a learning curve. Maybe Sergio just takes a little bit more time, as he clearly did for his race win, as he might be doing with this.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a very interesting young driver who just got an extension, who he himself doesn't believe he deserves an extension. He said that he thinks he crashed the car too many times for him to deserve an extension. And I'm talking about Mr. Tsunoda from Japan. Jonah,
let's talk about AlphaTauri in general, because
I want to hear your thoughts first. What are you thinking about this? Because you have an idea of what my thoughts are, but I want to hear yours.
I have lots of question marks about not that Yuki Tsunoda got extended, but that Helmut Marko allowed Yuki Tsunoda to get extended at AlphaTauri. Because had it been anyone else, had it been Pierre Gasly, had it been Alex Albon, let's be real, Helmut Marko would not have extended them. So I think I hope that it isn't because Honda had something to do with it and that they just said, please, even though we're leaving, we want to keep Tsunoda around. Um, I don't know. I'm shocked that they kept around Yuki Tsunoda, and I feel bad once again saying that because we saw in F2 last year, Yuki Tsunoda is a good driver. It's just that he hasn't showed it this year. When you have, I think, in my opinion, the biggest gap between drivers, probably tied or maybe just a little bit edges out Russell and Latifi. But Pierre Gasly putting up podiums, putting up high points finishes, and Yuki Tsunoda, besides his first race, crashing the car, messing it up in practice. I don't know, barely making it out of Q1 or making it out of Q1 at all. I think that it's a little bit shocking to me that the Red Bull Driver Academy actually let this happen. Once again, I'm going to say this again. I really hope it's because he has the opportunity to spend time around the car next year and be part of the development. And hopefully he ends up putting in good results next year. But based on the results that he's shown this year, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. I don't know if Honda has some sort of side deal going on, but I'm hoping again, like the Ricardo situation, like the Perez situation, there's a learning curve, especially not only when you're going from a new team to new team, but when you're going from racing series to racing series, there's a huge learning curve. So I'm just hoping that, along with this maybe mini side deal going on, that they're really giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I do agree with you. If this was another driver that was not Japanese, I don't think they would have extended him. I think that Jehan Daruvla would be in that seat. And that's the end of the story.
I mean, I said that Yuki Tsunoda and Jehan Daruvla would be the partnership because I thought that Pierre Gasly would move out. But yeah, here we are. We have no Indian driver in F1 next season unless Jehan Daruvla moves to Alfa Romeo, which I don't think that's gonna happen.
No.
But yeah, well, we've talked about Yuki Tsunoda. We've talked about the weirdness of that contract. I mean, I'm gonna bounce back on what you said. I don't think it's because he's Japanese. I think it's because it's Yuki Tsunoda, which are two very different things. Because you could have a good driver come from any country, but just because it's Japanese and just because of the ties with Honda, I don't think that it's that big of an issue.
Right.
So you want to talk about Pierre Gasly?
Yeah, he just deserves to be in that Red Bull seat. He's performed so well this year. It is really, really crazy. And for me, a shock that he's on the Red Bull seat, especially compared, like I said before, to how Sergio Perez is performing this year. We'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out. But so far, Pierre Gasly, I think, in relative to his car, has outperformed Sergio Perez on a consistent basis. He did it last year, and I think that he deserves that seat. I think that Red Bull made a mistake.
So you had him going to Red Bull. I had him going to Alpine.
But Alpine, I knew Ocon would stay because I have a very high conviction in Ocon. I really like him as a driver.
And now he's a race winner.
And now he's a race winner. And when that extension came out, you were surprised. I was not. And look, he proved you wrong. He deserves that extension.
I think that this is a power move by AlphaTauri. And let me explain. I think that AlphaTauri, based on how well they've done this season, is trying to prove to Red Bull that they're not just trying to be a B team and that they're trying to be competitive in their own right. So keeping Pierre Gasly on with AlphaTauri is their way of showing, listen, you think that you could just throw in your rookies and hopefully eventually they'll make it up to the senior team and you won't need to deal with us anymore. No, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep Pierre Gasly because he's done so well for us. He has a podium this year. He has a win last year. We're here to fight. We're here to fight in the same, we're doing the same 70 something laps around the circuit as you are. And we want to be competitive in our own right. We want to be a strong midfield team without having to be the next in line for Red Bull. I think that's the way that I see Pierre Gasly's extension coming.
And you're not fully wrong in saying that, because at this point last year, might I remind you, Red Bull and AlphaTauri were equal in wins.
That's true.
So you are not entirely wrong in saying that. What I might add is that Helmut Marko might want to keep a bit of distance. He might want to say, easy there, Tiger. We know you have a talented driver, but here at Red Bull is where the magic really happens. You know why? Because we have a guy named Max Verstappen, and he's really good, and he's going to be the youngest F1 world champion. That might be the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what will really tell? The 2022 F1 season.
I will be excited to see next season. I mean, we're recording this right after recording our Russian Grand Prix episode. And I said in the Russian Grand Prix episode that I'm not too optimistic about how I think the car regulations are going to go. But I really hope that I'm wrong because I want to see some good racing. And I think that especially Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri, George Russell at Mercedes, for all you know, Alex Albon at Williams could pull a few surprises. I want to see drivers pick it up. So kind of just ending on this, Jordan, how optimistic do you feel about next season?
I think the competitiveness is going to be at an all-time high. Not only do we have the cost cap coming in, not only do we have new cars, new R&D, new engines that have to fit the new cars. We have drivers that are proven to be great, that have race experience all over the grid. In the bottom three teams, we have Valtteri Bottas, a race winner, Alex Albon, podium sitter. We have I was going to talk about Haas, but never mind. But in the midfield, we also have a couple of race winners, and we have the top team. So I think we're going to have some competitive racing. What do you have to say?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, regardless of who fills the seat at Alfa Romeo next year, that next year is going to be the most talented grid in F1 history.
Yeah.
We don't have
any rookies besides one, maybe,
not even. And even Nikita Mazepin has done relatively well for the car that he has been given. So looking at the talent that you have, like you said, on all the teams, it definitely has to be one of, if not the most talented grid in F1 history. And I am really excited to see how that plays out. If we get a mix up of the order, then fantastic. But I really want to see it happen. So with that being said, do you have anything else to add?
This was a great episode, and I'm looking forward to revisit it.
Well, if you want to revisit it with us and you want to hear more from us, feel free to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at the JJF1 podcast, and we will see you for the next episode. See ya.
See ya.